Hello, this is Christian Okoye, former Kansas City Chiefs. You are listening to Grilling Truth.
Welcome, everybody, to Survive and Advance on the Grilling Truth Sports Network. Survive and Advance is brought to you by Replenishing Care Technologies, the future of sports medicine. To find out more about Replenishing Care and all their products they offer, go to thegrillytruth.net and click on the banner. I'm your co-host for Survive and Advance, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I want to welcome in my other co-host from sunny California, Steve Risley. How you doing, Steve?
Doing great out here today, Mike. Everything's peachy keen. Another beautiful day in paradise. It's going to be mid-70s, pushing 80 degrees. Got a little marine layer coming. You know what a marine layer is?
Not a clue.
Marine layer is the fog and the kind of moisture that comes in off the ocean every day. You know what you have to do to get marine layer?
Is it all the poop in the streets of San Francisco?
No, you have to live close to an ocean and a beach.
So did you know what a marine layer was before you got there?
I had no clue what a marine layer was before I got here. But now that I live here and I'm out here, we get marine layer pretty much every morning where the moisture and the fog rolls in and it burns off around 10 o'clock. It turns into just another beautiful day in La La Land.
All right. And talk about another beautiful day in La La Land. We've got the NCAA corruption scandal, which we've decided we're going to go and stay on it the entire time so you can hear us talk about it here almost every day. Because for some reason, ESPN, all the other ones, they'll talk about it a little bit, but there's nothing in depth. And when you go looking for articles, it's hard to find daily updates on this, Steve.
You know, I'm going to call this our version of the OJ trial. We're just going to ride this one out, and you can be Judge Ito, and I'll be Marcia Clark. How's that?
I'd rather be Johnny Cochran.
Yeah, you're right. I'll be Kardashian. I'll be Robert Kardashian.
Well, I figured you'd want to be the Kardashian.
Yeah, you're right. But he's dead. He's not alive.
Yeah, so
poor guy.
Watch who you're going to be. He may be lucky though if you watch that show.
Yeah, exactly. That show probably wouldn't be on if he was alive. That probably would have never happened.
Somebody with some common sense might be there and stop all that shit.
Hey, they're all worth a ton of money. You know, that's living proof in this country that you can not be talented and make a lot of money. It's called packaging. Good for them. No
or you could work
there.
for the NCAA, Steve, and then you'll make a lot of money.
You can participate in the NCAA as a business, doing business with them and make a lot of money, which seems to be happening. But, you know, the interesting thing about this whole trial is you said it in the introduction, it is very difficult to find information that's going on. I mean, the NCAA seems to be doing a very good job of keeping their distance because the trial that's going on right now is what we're going to effectively call the Gatto trial. And Gatto is one of the executives, along with a couple other guys for Adidas, who is the first one really generally implicated by the government for basically he's being implicated for tax evasion and wire fraud in the sense that allegedly there was reports he was making large sums of money payments to athletes in order to get them to wear Adidas equipment and then send them to Adidas schools, which is what brought the whole NCAA involved in this because of recruiting violations, which aren't really criminal crimes. Those are rules violations by the NCAA. So what's really on trial right now is this portion of money laundering and wire fraud. And there was a big twist that happened yesterday that we've been able to pull up some information on. And it's really funny because, you know, you don't see a lot of this on ESPN. You don't see a lot of this on pretty much anybody that has ties to the NCAA. You know, the best place to get information almost is like going to Real Sports or the Ballers program on HBO, an entertainment program that's not really tied to the NCAA, has no dog in the fight or stake in the game. But yesterday, apparently, it evolves around the one kid, Brian Bowen, who was a recruit for Louisville. and there was claims that he was being paid lots of money and everything to go to Louisville, and that's kind of was the initial implication started from. Well, yesterday the dad testified that all they ever got from Louisville was $1,300, and that came late in the game. The $1,300 was to help pay for rent after the family had relocated to Louisville because the younger Bowen had agreed to play at Louisville. But the Bowen senior, the dad, came out and said, no, we've been accepting money from everybody long before we took $1,300 from shoe companies, Adidas or Louisville or anything of that nature. There had been people handing us money left and right. So it kind of almost shot down the entire case of the shoe companies versus the NCAA versus recruiting, because there's other factors going on here. And the question then becomes, and apparently these guys, what reports are now, they're going to get off, and they're going to be found innocent of any charges by other charges the government's laying on them. There just wasn't enough proof. It's flimsy. There's not enough proof. There's not enough money really involved to even make it worthwhile for the government to prosecute. So, but the question just becomes is that why is a kid not allowed to accept money from other people as he's going through the process where he's in high school? And, you know, if other AE teams want to offer him money here and there, why is that illegal, Mike?
I don't know. Because he's supposed to be an amateur athlete, and we're supposed to protect amateur athletics. And something that I found that I find completely hilarious is that I was just doing a search for news. It's hard to find anything, but you've got Roy Williams at North Carolina, who said he is completely dumbfounded by this because he's never heard in his 30 years of anybody asking for money or paying money for a player. He said this is completely foreign to him, and this is from a guy that was at North Carolina where they were forcing kids to take Swahili and get gift grades to be able to play.
Yeah, well, that goes back to the McCans's deal. And
yeah, but Roy Williams said in his 30 years he's never heard of a player being paid or a player asking for money.
And do you think the moon's made out of green cheese?
And the earth is flat, and Roy Williams is a complete, utter liar. And Roy Williams, yeah. I would think if you investigated his program, we already know it should have been taken down by the grade giving and the class fixing, and now he's going to try to act like he's freaking Mary Poppins or whatever and doesn't know of any wrongdoing ever done by anybody, and this completely dumbfounds him. I mean, Roy Williams is an idiot. Or Roy Williams thinks we're idiots.
Yeah, I mean, in the cleanest of clean programs, by the very harsh definition and standards of what the NCAA wants to lay down on you, there is not a clean program in the country, and that includes Indiana. Okay, there is not a spotlessly clean program where somebody doesn't offer a student athlete a tank of gas, a free meal, clothing, or some kind of additional remuneration that goes on. And most all of the coaches know about it. The defining moment was different between my time in Indiana and if it happened and it got found out, it was stopped immediately. And I mean, and these were nothing major ever. It wasn't like people were handing you a car and then all of a sudden, you know, one of the coaches sees you in a new car and says, take it back. It was never to that extravagant. But there's not a program in the country where these coaches don't have a pulse on what's going on and don't have an idea and don't notice kids, I hate to use the word impoverished, but kids with low economic stature come in and all of a sudden start showing up in brand new cars or newer cars or driving nice cars or having nice TV sets in their dorm rooms and things of that nature. It's ridiculous for Roy Williams to even make that accusation, but they continue to try and hide it and deny it. And it's just amazing to me that it just continues to be escape penalty.
Yeah, and everybody knows about the Bowen one, but the one that's kind of covered up in here is NC State Compliance Director Carrie Doyle testified in federal court in New York on Tuesday that she had no prior knowledge of a $40,000 payment made to the father of Dennis Smith Jr. to secure his son's commitment to play basketball for the Wolfpack. The government alleges that Adidas executive James Gatto gave $40,000 to an unnamed NC State player or assistant basketball coach, who then passed it on to Dennis Smith in the fall of 2015. Casey Donnelly, who's Gatto's attorney, admitted to this. He made it. And when you look at NC State, the coach at the time was Mark Gottfried. He and assistant Orlando Early used a helicopter, which is against NCAA regulations, to go recruit players. And they did it with Eric Leak, a former football player at NC State and agent runner who had previously been disassociated from the university. And the thing that's amazing here is Gottfried got fired in 2017, and then he almost immediately got a new job, Steve.
He's coaching 3 miles from my house here in Cali. He's coaching at CSUN, California State University Northridge. He's the head basketball coach. Before all this had even happened, I actually had sent my application in to apply for an assistant coaching position with him, and never got a hold of me. Never bothered to return the call. Well, justifiably, my resume isn't built to be a coach, as I've had no genuine coaching experience, although I probably
it is
more
debatable with what he's done if he should even be a head coach who's making a decision for somebody.
Well, here's the thing about that is that CSUN just came off of a serious rules violation probation for cheating, having student managers take the test, allegedly. I guess they were caught, and they actually self-policed themselves, but were caught for turning themselves in because the student managers for the basketball team and some of the assistant coaches were taking the tests for all the players because everything was electronic and computerized at CSUN. So you basically would turn in your homework and turn in your test scores and your tests and take it all online, and then you would submit it. They caught them, and then they got wind that was happening. They got wind because all of a sudden every player's homework assignments and test results were all coming from one central computer, and not from each of their own computers. And they went and actually asked each of the players, what's the login for you to log into your – they couldn't even give you the login name of how they would log into their own accounts because it was all done through the basketball office. So CSUN had come off probation, and then Gottfried gets fired from North Carolina, and then CSUN digs right back into it and takes somebody with this kind of baggage. And now if this continues to grow, again, as it just go back to they had come off of a kind of a dismal coach. Reggie Theus had coached the team for the last 3 years, and CSUN had been the bottom dweller of the Big Sky.
Yeah,
I think that's the conference, in the Big Sky Conference or something. And they'd been the bottom dwellers and had losing records, so they get rid of Reggie. They bring in a big-name coach from the ACC. But are they doing that for money and doing that to try and bolster attendance? And are they not taking a look at what the quality and character of the coach that they're getting is? So, I don't know.
Yeah. I just don't know. I mean, the more you look into the NCAA stuff, it's hard to find articles, but the more you look into it, and I think a place or a network that has attacked this is HBO with Real Sports a few years ago talking about the corruption in the football bowl system where you can't even get anybody from the NCAA to talk about the football bowl system, all the way up to Ballers with Dwayne Rock Johnson, which if you watch this season, it was all about him taking on the NCAA and the way NCAA exploits players. And I think when you look at that, it was dead on. And then we both watched Blue Chips in the last month. Blue Chips was made, I think, in 1993 or 94. And everything that was in that is what this is.
Yeah, I saw Blue Chips, I think, probably about the same time you probably. I just happened to run across it and ended up watching it. And I was amazed at how accurate and how provoking it was when this movie was made, so such a long time ago, to how real the whole storyline is right now really playing out in the courts. Mike, I think it goes back to this whole thing of the smarter way to do this is to incorporate the athletes into an employee-type relationship with the universities as opposed to a student-athlete.
Yeah, but the problem is, how do you get the NCAA to get their hands out of the cookie jar so somebody else can get a cut? Because right now, amateur athletics is pretty much dead anyways. You look at the Olympics, those people are getting paid. The only place you're not getting paid is in the NCAA. How do you stop that? The only way you could stop that would be a lawsuit that would basically kill the NCAA. And I don't know if there's anybody powerful enough to do that.
Well, the only way it's probably really ever going to happen is if the players do find a way to unionize. And I say that term very loose. Unite is probably a better word. And I know it's been tried sporadically to some degree, but somewhere down the road, you're going to have to get a really sharp attorney group or attorney, singular person who can head this thing and get all the players to be willing to say, we unite in this front that we will not play, we will sit out, we will do this, we will take these actions if the NCAA does not change the song and dance. Because the easiest way to stop it, in my eye, is just to legalize it and tax it. Give them W-2s. Set standards on what they can earn, what they can make. Again, it should be a profit-sharing situation, not necessarily a payment situation. Then you get into the issue of who, can the universities afford to pay every student athlete? I'd say initially you start with revenue-producing sports. If your sport can show that you can produce a revenue, then you get a profit-sharing plan based on the revenue you're producing. But I've just seen all this hype going on about Indiana University's new locker room facility. Thank God, we had a closet with wooden lockers. Have you seen the new IU locker room?
Yeah.
It's phenomenal. It's a palace. It's an absolute palace. And I have no idea. God, I wish it was there when I was there, because these guys got everything you can imagine. You have to go online and take a tour of it. It's a phenomenal facility. And it's not germane just to Indiana. I just know it because that's where I played, and I get the email feeds from it. But it's the money that they're spending on these things and how they're spending the money and where it's not going to is just getting silly. But in terms of the trial, it now appears that these shoes companies, in this case, with Bowen, are going to be exonerated entirely. What it's going to do is, once the government steps away from it, it's going to throw the power all back into the hands of the NCAA, which I think that's what the NCAA wants. Because if they have the power, then they control the investigation. Right now, they don't have any control. And I think you said it. Pretty much the NCAA is staying away from New York, staying out of this trial that's going on right now with the wire fraud and things. But all indications from reporters in the courtroom say they've got no case. The government really has no case against them.
Yeah, and
the government's going to walk away from it and say, it's not our mess. We don't see anything here.
Most of this stuff is stuff that happens before they're even an NCAA athlete. I think it's unconscionable for the NCAA to say its rules must apply years before a player is of college age.
Right.
And they provide no guarantee the player will even be a college athlete. And if these are truly athletes, the NCAA should have, or truly amateurs, these athletes, the NCAA should have less control over them, not more. And while players don't technically have to go to college, the NCAA is well aware that under the current NFL and NBA draft rules, you pretty much have to go play in college. You have to be beholden to the NCAA.
Well, you see, and I think, and to me, that's collusion almost. That's almost entirely collusion.
It is collusion. That's your lawsuit
to force
right
you
there.
to have to go. Yeah. And we talked about the kid on the LeBron James produced show. We saw the football player who
Nasita
took the money, took the housing from the family because he was poverty.
And he was a walk-on, correct? He didn't have a scholarship.
He was a walk-on, never under scholarship, never took the walk-on, didn't get the kicking. The NCAA kicked him out after 2 years, tried to go to the NFL. NFL said, no, you have to have 3 years. Somewhere along there's antitrust going on in there somewhere.
Yeah, and
that you're denying somebody the right.
He didn't even have a scholarship. So he was getting nothing. He was playing basically for free. He wasn't getting room and board. He wasn't getting meals. He wasn't getting tuition. He was basically on his own, and he needed housing. He took that housing from somebody that wasn't connected with the Baylor athletic program, and he did it so he could live. And they basically stopped him. And then when he goes to the Dream Bowl, he's told that basically you can't do that because, what is it, you got to have 3 years in college football before you can come out.
And, of course, who accredits the Dream Bowl?
The NCAA.
The NCAA. The NCAA, it says they accredit it and give it their stamp of approval, which means that college athletes can go participate in the Dream Bowl. See, it all comes back to the heavy hand of the NCAA and this whole thing of just continuing to rake in dollar after dollar after dollar without really truly having the student athletes' best interest at heart. But I go back to the thing that you argued. How can the NCAA tell a kid who is a sophomore in high school, who is the next protege of NBA basketball, we forbid you from taking money?
Yeah, and the thing is this, Steve, if the NCAA just allowed the Bowens to take that job with Adidas, none of this is a problem. Instead, they had to do everything under the table and link up with an uncertified agent, two back-channeling shoe executives that caused all of them to wind up in court. And, I mean, the thing is this. He's not with the NCAA. The Bowens are from Saginaw. I've coached a few games in Saginaw, Michigan. It is not a prosperous place to live. What is wrong with this kid's family and this kid when he's 16, 17 years old, making $4,000, $25,000 because of his talent? Because let's face it, these young kids are the best way for shoe companies to sell these shoes.
Well, and they've come out and said that a top recruit, a top 100 recruit on any one of the recruiting services is worth more to a shoe company than the 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th player on an NBA roster.
Yeah.
That they believe that the top recruiting athletes coming into college can generate more revenue off shoe sales than can, say, if you're a 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th man on an NBA roster. Then they pay, all the pros get shoe money. All the pros get some form of shoe money. Some don't get a lot, but everybody gets some money for wearing a certain brand of shoes. And they get all the free shoes and stuff that goes with it, tied with it too.
Yeah, and the amateurism does nothing for the kids, but it's real lucrative for the coaches, the conference commissioners, and the athletic directors. Guys like Big Ten Commissioner Jim Delaney, NCAA President Mark Emmert, Big Ten Commissioner Bob Bowlesby, to deny Bowen's dad a job and to deny Bowen's money for playing AAU basketball and to tell them that they need to keep scraping by in Saginaw, Michigan. I mean, there is no nobility in that. That is basically just ethically bankrupt by Emmert, Delaney, and all these other assholes at the NCAA.
Yeah, well, and they're hiding behind a culture that was around in the 30s, 40s, and 50s when there was true amateurism in athletics. But that has, since the television money coming into play to the volume that's in there now, that has entirely gone away. There is just, and I've gone back and said, I even believe in 77 to 81 when I played in college, my scholarship was fair pay because the money that was coming in at that point in time was not near what the money is that's coming in now. I mean, there was good money back then. Universities, the one, were making money. But I would say the effort that I gave and put into it, the commitment I made to Indiana at that point in time, the scholarship that was being given to me, along with all the amenities that went with the scholarship, the legal amenities, was a fair balance. Today, that's not the case. Today, it's so far out of whack because there's so much more revenue-generating sources out there and it's all based on one thing, and that's the student athlete. Be it the football player, the baseball player, the golfer, the basketball player, the swimmer, whatever revenue-producing sports you have at your university. But the NCAA continues to hide behind this amateurism rule that doesn't exist anywhere except pretty much now in the NCAA.
Yeah, they'd rather hide their heads in the ground, act like nothing's going on, and then commission Condoleezza Rice, who has, I don't know how the hell Condoleezza Rice ends up in this, but she'll tell them whatever predetermined truth they've asked her to tell them, and then they will just act like everything's all right. And Condoleezza Rice has no bear. Can you tell me why Condoleezza Rice is even involved in this?
She's a member at Augusta, and the guys want to play Augusta. She is. She's a member. She's a member of Augusta National. So that's probably has as much to do with it as anything. So the guys can say, "Oh, let's have a meeting at Augusta and play 18 holes of golf."
All these guys are already members of Augusta.
No, I don't think any of them are members of Augusta.
Why not? They got a lot of money.
Not the guys
Doesn't that help?
That doesn't matter. Money doesn't matter at Augusta. You got to be liked.
Well, then there's no way those guys would ever get in anyway.
Most of them are not in. So, but no, Condoleezza Rice is a member at Augusta National, and I don't think that's the reason why. Obviously, I mean, she's a Stanford graduate. She's a former Secretary of State. Is that her title?
Yeah. What does that have to do with college basketball and players getting paid?
Yeah. Well, if you looked at half the people that were on that committee, they were all wealthy people who already had money in their pocket. There virtually was nobody on that panel that was there representing the Bowens from Saginaw, Michigan, who were living in a lower economic bracket with any say on what needed to be done and what rules need to be changed to support those people as they make a big commitment and sacrifice to get their kids in education and to get them to be able to watch their kids play and everything of that nature. It's just, it's just too one-sided for the NCAA to continue to have that much power over the student athlete. But the problem is NCAA's got it so wrapped up it's the only game in town. There's no other avenue. You can't even get to the pro ranks now. I guess what will happen is, and maybe it's starting to happen, is more and more kids may start trying to go to Europe. I don't know. I don't know if that's an answer or not, if the European leagues become more attractive or not.
Hold on. I'm just reading this. I got you another one I found buried deep in here. And the headline is 4 Kentucky soccer players facing punishment after violating NCAA rules by participating in a pickup game with members of the Foo Fighters. The Courier-Journal reports that 4 current Wildcat players, 3 from the men's team, 1 from the women's, were invited by members of the band to play in a pickup game prior to the Foo Fighters' May 1st concert in Lexington. This was a week before final exams when team activities are prohibited. The players will have to sit out 2 team activities like practice or meetings for the rule violation, the report said. Kentucky compliance officials uncovered the violation when they checked the pass list for the Foo Fighters show at Rupp Arena and found the athletes' names. They were able to remove the names ahead of the concert, thus avoiding further NCAA sanctions for impermissible benefits, but realized the pickup game was a violation and reported it to the NCAA, who acted swiftly to punish the players. That's a real story. That is totally true. Totally true.
Don't even have an answer for that. So
they could have lost eligibility because they got free concert tickets from the Foo Fighters. And this is at a place that employed Joe B. Hall, Eddie Sutton, Rick Pitino, and now John Calipari. And they're going to bust some kids' balls because they played pickup soccer with the Foo Fighters.
Yeah, all the names aforementioned are all multimillionaires.
Yeah, and they made it off the back of free labor. That's a great country, isn't it, Steve?
It's a great system. I mean, and you got to give the NCAA credit. They have refined and defined it.
It's a great system for the masses. You know, if Massa says it, you got to do it. Massa said you can't play pickup soccer with the Foo Fighters, so now you got to sit out 2 things. I mean, this is a joke. I mean, and I don't see any other sports news worth covering today. And we're at a half hour. You got anything else, Steve?
No, we'll try and keep you appraised of the trial. But I think it's the most part it's going to get buried. It looks like this is going to the thing with the Gatto and the wire transfer, money laundering thing is going to go away. That the government's not going to have a strong enough case. And that's exactly playing right into the hands of the NCAA, because that takes it off the table from any kind of newsworthy thing. And then they can quietly deal with Louisville and Gottlieb, Gottfried, and Arizona, and all the other schools who are being implicated with the shoe companies. They can deal with that internally and not make a mockery or mess with that and get that public out there to where they have to spill any more beans than the NCAA wants to. And they'll go about NCAA wins again.
They always do.
They're just that powerful in sports. I give them credit.
Yeah.
They've got a machine going.
All right, Steve, we're going to wrap it up, but we will be back at 3 o'clock Eastern Time, myself and Joe Kelly, to preview the Bengals-Steelers game on the Cincinnati Bengals Weekly Show. Then tonight at 8 o'clock, myself, Steve, Colin Hartman. I believe we got a guest tonight, too, right, Steve, on the Indiana Basketball
Yes,
Weekly
we
Show?
do.
And the guest is?
Robbie Eggers.
Who played from 94 through 97 or 98 with Bob Knight in Indiana.
Was a stalwart player for the program, kind of a player molded after myself or even Colin. Did a lot of the grunt work and dirty work and made a lot of contributions in there, but has had really good insight into a different era of Indiana basketball than either Colin or I were involved in. So he'll have some stories to tell, and he'll have a different opinion as to what we're seeing in the development of this new Indiana program. So we'll have Robbie on this evening as our first guest. We'll go from there, and that'll be on, at 8 o'clock Eastern Time tonight?
8 o'clock Eastern Time, and then at 9 o'clock Eastern Time, myself and Robert Drummond will be doing the CFL Weekly Pick'em Show. We're at Week 18. Robert, of course, won 4 Grey Cups with the BC Lions and the Toronto Argonauts, played with Doug Flutie, one of the best running backs in CFL history, so make sure you check us out there also. You can follow us on Twitter at Grilling Truth or at Survive the Magic, or you can just go follow both, which would be even better. You can go on Facebook, type in the Grilling Truth, find our page, follow us there. You can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, Spotify, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher. Wherever you find sports podcasts, you'll find the Grueling Truth. So for Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.